Apparently, not everyone who gets reincarnated into a book becomes the main character. Some end up as saints who find love after a mountain of hardship. Others become villainesses who claw their way into power. But then there are the extras. People who just live normal lives and, honestly, a stable job, a cozy home, a family that loves you, and friends you can be real with sound pretty great to me. Our girl Carolina is one of those extras. She's dating the male lead himself, Soja, and right now she's hovering over him while he's blushing so hard he can barely speak. She just stares at him, completely smitten, like she could watch his face all day, so she teases him a little. Are they seriously going to hold hands their entire relationship and save the first kiss for the wedding? He insists that's not it. There's just something he hasn't told her yet. She waves it off anyway and says whatever it is can wait. Then she pulls him in, pins him against the chair, and tells him flat out that she wants him. Bad move, because Soja flips the script instantly. He grabs her, spins her around, yanks her up while she yelps in surprise, then kisses her and carries her straight to the bed. He peels off his shirt, telling her to take all of him. In her head, she's thinking that this escalated fast, but honestly, aside from her boyfriend being unfairly good-looking, her whole life is pretty ordinary, and simple and safe is more than enough to make her happy. Later, Soja catches her heading out and jokes that she'd better not be planning to seduce the Emperor and then disappear. She laughs it off on the outside, but inside, her smile goes cold. This is before she found out who he really was. Meanwhile, rewind to the Regencia Imperial Palace inside the Ministry of Finance, where everyone is just trying to get through their workday. Donovan storms up to Carolina, calling her Miss Carolina Diaz when he wants to sound official, and accuses her of pulling some kind of prank on him. He's furious. He slams his fist on the table because the rollout data for the Albran territory is missing from the document she submitted yesterday. He throws the papers right at her face. With the Emperor's victory ceremony less than a week away, every department is about to report before state affairs even begin. He's panicking that she's about to drag the entire finance ministry's name through the mud. Carolina stays calm, though. She picks up the papers and apologizes, telling him that wasn't her intention and that she'll have it compiled before she heads out today. He's not having it. He snaps back, asking who said she gets to head out at all and demands it be done before lunch instead. She bows and walks away without another word. Back at her desk, a fellow ministry employee named Connie notices something's off and asks if she's okay. When Carolina asks why, Connie drops the bomb. Donovan was the one who told her to leave that data out in the first place. Connie heard it with her own ears. So now the question is obvious. Why is he punishing her for his own mistake? Carolina just laughs the whole thing off. Needing to blow off some steam after work, she tells Connie, who looks ready to feel sorry for her, until Carolina waves it away and tells her to go enjoy herself instead. Connie chimes in with a quick goodbye before clocking out, and Carolina tosses the same energy right back. But here's the truth. She's not actually upset, not even a little. Compared to her past life, this is nothing. Because Carolina used to be an ordinary civil exam student who collapsed from sheer overwork and stress, and somehow woke up as Carolina Diaz, a side character in a novel. Not even a footnote in the original plot. She's still stuck doing low-level finance work just like before, but honestly, she's thrilled about it. No overtime today means a peaceful life, and that's basically the dream. The actual book is some grand romance between a brutal warmongering emperor and his sunny wrongfully accused leading lady, the kind of slow burn that ends happily ever after. Carolina wants none of that drama. Her only wish is simple: survive to retirement, collect her pension, and live quietly. This isn't completely off the table. She just hasn't had the chance, and honestly, who could blame her for not chasing it? Later that day, Connie ends up buried under a mountain of overtime courtesy of some guy named Donovan, so she sends Carolina home alone, apologizing the whole way. Carolina tells her she's got this, and heads out completely unbothered by her own sudden freedom. Cats at the park, groceries for dinner, the usual plan for an unexpected evening off. Then she spots something rare, freesias blooming way out of season with butterflies drifting lazily around the golden petals. She can't resist stepping inside. The shop owner tells her these are the very last bunch fresh from the northern capital and starts wrapping them up while Carolina imagines them sitting pretty by her window catching the sunlight. Honestly, I'd have grabbed them too. That's when a hooded stranger steps up to the same counter and asks for freesias as well. Carolina's eyes go wide. Because sometimes life doesn't just get interrupted, it gets completely rewritten, starting with one impossibly striking stranger who pulls his hood down just a little too late. Carolina's still frozen, completely caught off guard by how handsome this stranger is. She can't help but wonder how anyone's eyes could look like that until he tugs his hood down further and she finally catches herself staring way too hard. Mortified, she looks away like nothing happened. Meanwhile, So depresses the shopkeeper again about the freesias and gets the bad news. Sold out. The last bunch just went to the woman standing right next to him. He asks if any other merchant nearby might have some, but the shopkeeper isn't hopeful. Not with the flowers being out of season. That's when Carolina steps in. She doesn't know his situation, but it's obvious he needs these more than she does, so she offers up her own bouquet without a second thought. It's not like she absolutely needed them anyway. Soja just stares at the flowers for a moment before taking them, thanking her with something that sounds suspiciously close to a confession. Then he drops a pouch of gold on the counter, tells the shopkeeper to use it for whatever flowers Carolina wants, and walks straight out the door like it's nothing. Carolina was left standing there completely stunned. That's way too generous for a stray bouquet, she thinks, but he's already gone. The shopkeeper, meanwhile, is staring at the gold like it just fell from the sky. Carolina ends up walking out with an entire basket of flowers she never asked for, mostly because the shopkeeper looked 1 second from tears if she didn't take them all. As she walks, she can't stop replaying the encounter. Definitely the most handsome man she's ever seen, with a stiff formal way of speaking that screamed soldiers fresh off the battlefield. Yet he switched to casual speech so easily it almost felt noble. Either way, free eye candy on an otherwise dull day off isn't something she's going to complain about. Her life is just work and home on repeat, so a little excitement like this is rare. Then, heading toward Gradle Park, she freezes. There he is again. Soja stands alone at a locked gate, a teddy bear in hand, and freesias tucked against his chest, looking devastated. The timing feels way too perfect to be a coincidence. She realizes the main gate is under construction, and when he turns to head that way, instead she rushes to warn him, only for him to spin around and shoot her a glare that stops her cold. Carolina stumbles, flowers scattering everywhere, and Soja catches her right before she hits the ground. But his grip on her wrist is way tighter than he realizes, and the second he notices her wincing in pain, he lets go immediately. He's left there silently cursing the pain while rubbing her wrist. She pushes through it to remind him they've actually met before, back at the flower shop. He recognizes her instantly as the freesia woman and asks if she needs something. She just wants to give him a heads up. The main gate he's heading toward is under construction, so if he wants into Gradle Park before it closes, he needs to go the other way, and fast. Soja stares off in the direction she's pointing, clearly thrown, then quietly thanks her. Carolina tries to wave it off and turn to leave, but Soja's eyes catch the bruise forming on her wrist, the one he caused, and guilt stops him cold. He tells her to wait, insists on checking it despite her protests, and when she still hesitates, he basically guilts her into it by joking he doesn't want to look like a villain. Once he examines her hand, he confirms nothing's broken, just swelling that'll bruise for a day or two, and tells her to get it treated at sunrise at a nearby temple, dropping the name Everett Rogers as a reference. Then he walks off, leaving Carolina repeating that oddly specific name in her head, intrigued. That evening, the freesias and teddy bear end up resting at a tombstone, and Soja steps out of the cemetery, only to be intercepted by a man waiting with a carriage. "I suspected you were here," the man says, addressing him as Your Majesty, which instantly tells us exactly who Soja really is. The man scolds him hard for sneaking off alone on the anniversary of Lady Bliss' death, especially with the triumphal ceremony coming up and 0 guards around him. Soja brushes off the danger completely unbothered. Then the man asks if anything went wrong while he was out. Soja hesitates, clearly thinking about the wrist incident with Carolina, and for a second admits maybe a little happened. But he immediately backtracks and insists nothing did. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of guilty hesitation that gives it away. Carolina's back at her desk, flexing the wrist. Soja gripped a little too hard, and surprisingly, it healed up fine. Just 1 silver's worth of ointment did the job, so she's quietly relieved she skipped the temple altogether. Sure, the goddess minus healers could have fixed it instantly with pure divine power, but that convenience comes with a price tag that makes 0 sense for a bruise this small, since the temple charges the same steep donation no matter how minor the injury. Though she can't help but side-eye Soja a little for suggesting it is like money grows on trees. Then again, with a face like his, she's willing to forgive the cluelessness. She can't stop the blush creeping up just thinking about him. Meanwhile, back in the office, Donovan is absolutely losing it on Connie in front of everyone. He snaps about missed deadlines while she shrinks under the pressure, apologizing over and over. Carolina just watches quietly, thinking, yep, here we go again, same chaos, different day. By sunset, Connie is completely drained. He keeps ranting about being handed 8 years of tax records across 7 territories with one single day to finish them, practically begging the universe to let her drop dead instead. So, overtime hits again, no surprise there. Carolina points out that Donovan's been extra unhinged lately, and Connie explains exactly why. He's terrified about the Emperor's triumphal return, especially since he's been bragging about ties to the Duke of Camelot. And who happens to be the second most powerful man in the Empire? Turns out rumors are spreading that the Emperor plans to purge him, along with every noble who got comfortable while the war was happening. Connie practically lights up, imagining the drama unfolding, joking. She'll grab popcorn for the show. But Carolina isn't laughing. She knows exactly what this Emperor is capable of, the same man who slaughtered his way to the throne and stained nations in blood for 8 straight years before some female lead supposedly softened him up. So while everyone else braces for political fireworks, Carolina's only real fear is much simpler. Will her quiet, peaceful little life survive whatever comes next? Connie finally finishes her part, admitting she nearly cried over it, but Carolina cuts in, offering to help since she's almost done with her own pile. Connie just lights up, calling Carolina the best thing that ever happened to her. He keeps going on about how she never had parents pulling strings for her career, but somehow won the friendship lottery by meeting Carolina back at the academy. Carolina eventually cuts the sentimental moment short, telling her to just hurry up and hand the work over already. Connie does, but the second Carolina glances at the papers, something feels off. This is Western Territory data, not Eastern, and Connie is supposed to be handling East. Turns out Donovan just dumped this on her too, no explanation given. The real culprit behind the West data is some noble named Andrew Nofi. Apparently, Donovan loves quietly offloading his responsibilities onto Connie under the excuse of doing him a favor. Not exactly a first for him either. Carolina schemes through it, and while the sudden change in who's handling what is suspicious, the actual numbers look clean enough, so she lets it go for now. Anyway, the weekend finally arrives and Carolina is living her absolute best life, decked out, practically floating down the street, screaming about her long-awaited golden weekend. She heads straight to see her 5 favorite cats, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, and Sol, feeding them while soaking in the kind of peace she hasn't felt in forever thanks to non-stop weekend work. Honestly, she deserved this. But just when things are calm, Fa suddenly bolts into a bush and Carolina chases after him only to freeze at what she finds. It's Soja, hood up, with Fa's claws dug straight into his sleeve. Mortified, she scrambles to apologize, rambling about the cat being a stray and offering to pay for any damage to his clothes. Soja says, absolutely nothing. He just walks right past her like she wasn't even talking, leaving Carolina standing there completely stunned, convinced he ignored her on purpose. And honestly, who wouldn't be a little offended by that? Carolina is still completely stunned, watching Soja walk off without a single word, fully convinced he ignored her on purpose. Even after leaving the cats behind, she can't shake it off. She keeps replaying the moment over and over, thinking about how ridiculous it was for someone to just blatantly act like she didn't exist. Sure, they're not exactly close enough for warm greetings, but that reaction felt extreme, almost like he thought she was some kind of stalker. She imagines him waving her off like a stray cat and decides, with looks like his, he probably attracts more pests than he'd like to admit. Eventually, she just shrugs it off, telling herself caring is a losing game and she'll likely never run into him again anyway. Of course, the universe disagrees immediately because she spots him again just a short distance away and instinctively yelps, diving behind a tree like a startled cat herself. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. Soja's mortified, realizing he actually has company this time. She quickly convinces herself that hiding is the weirder move here, since she hasn't done anything wrong, so she forces herself to walk past confidently instead. Unfortunately for her, Soja notices the whole dramatic exit, and now he's the one growing curious about who she actually is. She stops briefly at a bakery, completely unaware that Soja has been quietly trailing behind her this entire time, only slipping away once she's safely done with her errand. Meanwhile, Soja shows up at some upscale establishment, hood finally off, revealing himself to a waiter named Kyle, who greets him with familiar comfort. Turns out Kyle already knows exactly who he's serving, casually confirming he's technically on official duty while pouring tea. Soja brushes off questions about the Duke of Camelot's situation, clearly distracted by something else entirely. Instead, he asks Kyle a strange question: does he believe in coincidences? Kyle is immediately intrigued, leaning into the conversation as Soja finally lays out exactly what's been bothering him, running into the same woman every single time he leaves the Imperial Palace, not just once, but repeatedly, sometimes multiple times in one day. He genuinely wants to know if something like that could just be a coincidence, and honestly, given how suspicious it sounds, even to him, you can tell he's already starting to doubt it himself. Kyle immediately jumps to the obvious conclusion, asking if Soja suspects this woman of being an assassin or spy, but Soja isn't so sure anymore. Thinking back to the moment he grabbed her wrist, there was zero hesitation in how she reacted. No instinct for danger, no trained weariness, just hands that clearly never touched a weapon in their life. If anything, she reminded him more of a pampered puppy than of anyone dangerous. Still, something about the whole situation nags at him enough that he wants answers. Whether this is fate working behind the scenes or just some person pulling strings, he doesn't understand yet. Kyle agrees to look into it without hesitation, only to get pulled away seconds later by a group of women demanding a menu refill. Left alone with his terrible coffee, Soja stares into his cup, completely unimpressed by the place's popularity, given how bad the drink actually is. He can't even bring himself to finish it. His mind keeps circling back to one single thought: who exactly is that woman? Meanwhile, back at the Ministry of Finance, Carolina is buried under an avalanche of paperwork. Connie is straight up losing her mind beside her, convinced the workload is actually going to kill her this time.